If you're a loan officer or an underwriter, the algorithm has got you here, and it knows that your entire day can fall apart because of one bank statement. Yes, one. That's all it takes. One statement with 40 pages of transactions, 5 different formatting styles, and exactly 0 standardization. And inside all that chaos, there's a tiny little red flag hiding somewhere. And if you miss it, the fallout isn't small. It's real and it's expensive. And the numbers don't lie. More than 40% of lending losses in the US are a result of incomplete or inaccurate borrower assessments. Fraud incidents routinely cost lenders over $100,000 per case. In 2024 alone, TD Bank was fined $3.09 billion for AML compliance failures, the largest penalty in FinCEN history. And that's just one case. So, if you've reached this far into the video, here's what you'll walk away with by the end. You're going to see exactly why loan officers and underwriting teams struggle so much with manual bank statement analysis. You'll understand how much a single underwriting mistake can potentially cost your business. And finally, you'll learn how automated document workflows can take this entire burden off your shoulders so you can review faster, catch more red flags, and make decisions with confidence. You and I both know that reviewing borrower documents isn't just slow, it's a productivity black hole. When you're staring at those PDFs at 9:17 a.m., it's not just reviewing documents, it's diffusing a bomb, and the timer is hidden somewhere between pages 6 and 7. And your job isn't just to read the data. Your job is to interpret it. You're scanning for subtle hints of risk, the transfer that doesn't match the business narrative, that late-night wire to a personal account, and the unusual spending patterns of the borrower. You're doing all of this while juggling 5 windows, comparing values, copy-pasting numbers, formatting the data, and hoping you didn't blink during that one suspicious transaction. Even the best analysts miss things. That's just reality. One wrong value, one missed transaction, one copy-paste error. Suddenly, your audit trails don't match, the borrower's story falls apart, and the risk you were supposed to catch slips right through. According to the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, companies lose 5% of their annual revenue to fraud, which roughly translates to $4.7 trillion globally. Bank statement fraud is one of the most common vectors. Over $800 billion is laundered annually through methods that rely on manipulated or undetected red flags in bank statements. So let's cut to the chase. What would your workday look like if all the manual chaos disappeared? Not someday, not when the team grows. I mean, starting next Monday. What if extraction, categorization, anomaly detection, and insights were already done before you even opened the document attached to that email? This is where Docsumo changes the game. Docsumo's agentic workflow builder enables teams to build AI-powered document workflows that automate repetitive, error-prone parts of their processes. It's like a junior analyst who never gets tired, never misses a detail, and keeps learning with every document they review. You configure the logic once, and from that point on, the system does the boring part of the job, while you handle the exceptions. And that's not it. You pave the way for your junior analyst to be promoted to a senior operator as they take on more decision-making responsibilities. Let me walk you through how this works to detect suspicious transactions in real time. Here's a typical US bank statement that contains multiple suspicious transactions. For example, the one highlighted in blue is an online transfer transaction made from the business account to an individual named Marcus L. To start, we log into Docsumo, head over to the Workflows tab, and click on the Create Workflow button. This will move us into the Agentic Workflow Builder. On the left, we can see an agentic chat box where we can enter a prompt specifying the kind of workflow we need. It is essential to use a concise and deterministic prompt to ensure the AI can suggest the correct nodes required to configure your workflow. I'm asking it to help me create a workflow that automatically detects suspicious transactions in bank statements received via email. Once suspicious transactions are detected, the engine should route them for manual review while automatically passing the others. We submit this prompt and let the AI do its magic. What it's going to do in the background is break down the prompt, understand the requirement, and suggest to us the next steps. There it is. The AI has shared the blocks we need to set up to create this workflow. First, we need an email ingestion block to import all files attached to emails containing bank statements. Next, the document classifier will assess the file to classify it as a bank statement. Then the data extractor block extracts key information from the statement, such as the account balance, transaction amounts, transaction descriptions. After this, the suspicious transaction detector will generate a Python code based on the validation filter to analyze the red flags in the file. Next, the transaction router will route suspicious transactions identified by the engine for manual review, while automatically passing all other normal transactions. Once we click on Yes, we'll be prompted to set up the case type to start the process. We will name this case as Bank Statements Suspicious Transaction Detector. Select the document type as Bank Statements, and then click on Create Case Type. Once we do that, we're pushed to the first step, which is to set up the email ingestion block. We will just copy the email ID and send a test email that has the bank statement attached to it. After sending this email, click on Test Block to start this test. As we can see, the test is successful and the email ingestion block has imported the attached file. We can view the output in JSON or table format based on our requirements. Now that this block is set up, I'll also add a manual file upload tab for this test from the Integrations dropdown. And with the document classifier block added to the workflow, I'll connect the file upload to the classifier block as well. We can now easily test the document classifier block. We can see that the uploaded file has been successfully classified as a US bank statement. We now move on to the next node, the data extractor block. We just need to test this block to continue. The extractor block has successfully captured all the key information from the statement. We can navigate to the next block now. In the suspicious transaction detector, we need to set our validation rule. As we can see, the AI engine has already suggested a validation rule, but I wanted to define my own rule. I have now entered my validation rule, which is basically to tag any transaction as suspicious only if the amount is more than $20,000, or the transaction description starts with the word online, as in online transfer. We have to click on Generate Code to let the AI generate a Python code for this rule on our behalf. The prompt-based rule has been converted into a code that the AI engine can understand to perform the analysis. We'll just test this block to see if it identifies any transactions as suspicious. We can see that the engine has generated the output, and the AI has identified suspicious transactions based on the validation rule we set. Moving on, we need to set up the transaction router block, to which we add a conditional statement to help the engine decide the next step of the workflow. Basically, if the transaction is indeed suspicious, it will be directed to a human for review, while the normal transaction will be passed automatically. Since I'm okay with the suggested filter, I'll just click on Generate Routing Conditions to proceed. The condition has been set up, and now we can test this block. The block is running without any error. Now we can proceed to the last block setup, which is to configure the users for manual review in case of suspicious transactions. In this case, I'll pick myself as the reviewer and test this block. Since I'm the user and the system has identified a red flag, I'll just click on Approve. And there it is. It's that easy to set up a workflow. We'll now quickly test this workflow as well to ensure there are no errors in the output. For this final test, we'll try to ingest the document via email. We'll copy this email address and send out the email with the attached bank statement file. As we can see, the email ingestion block has ingested the attached file received via email and pushed it to the document classifier block, which has classified it as a US bank statement. The classifier has moved the file to the data extractor block, which is now processing all the information from the statement. The extractor has accurately captured all the transaction line items from the statement and passed them to the suspicious transaction detector. The detector has identified suspicious transactions across the bank statement and set the field value to true. It has also moved the transactions to the transaction router, which has figured out the next steps for this flow. It has moved the suspicious transactions for my review, and if I click on Approve, it will successfully conclude the workflow test. Since I'm satisfied with the test output, I'll click Publish to ensure my workflow runs every time I receive an email on this published email address. Who would have imagined automating your boring, mundane, and low-impact tasks could be this easy? And don't forget all that you can improve with a little bit of automation. It's hours of work getting completed in minutes. Your risk exposure drops, accuracy improves, your analysts get their sanity back, and you finally get a workflow that keeps pace with your growing business needs. If you want to see how this works with your own bank statements, book a session with our automation team who will try to understand your business requirements and will help you set up your first workflow. And once you've seen this in action, you'll never want to go back to manual review again.